Hello everyone, HisRoyalFatness here and welcome back to the channel. Today we are continuing the How to Play series in the glorious E50M. This is where I show you 3 consecutive games in a tank. I break down my thought process and the decisions I made during those games, and hopefully you will find this information helpful when it comes to making decisions in your E50M. Now, the E50M is one of the best all-around medium tanks in the game, in my opinion. It has everything. It has the gun, the mobility, the armor, the flexibility, and the ability to bully other medium tanks especially. And with that in mind, this vehicle is pretty straightforward to play. When it comes to making these how to play videos, I like to choose 3 consecutive games where I really can teach you a lot, where I can show how the tank performs on average, and where I can show you how you can make decisions based on how the vehicle performs. Now, usually that's pretty easy. I played 30 games in this tank, and I had a lot of trouble deciding which games to show you because every game in this tank for the most part was easy. It was a breeze. It was straightforward, and I think that really is showing the characteristics on this vehicle and just how well this vehicle performs on average. It is such a good tank that it's difficult to have a streak of bad games or a streak of really good games where you make difficult decisions. So I'm going to be showing you typical E50M gameplay today, and I hope you'll enjoy it. But before we jump into that, I'm going to show you the equipment I'm running on this tank. This is what I am happy with on the vehicle right now. Of course, that's always subject to change, and of course you always have a different opinion on which equipment you like, but this is what I'm happy with. And with that out of the way, let's jump right into the first game. Alright, so here we are on Fort Despair for our first game, and this game I think is going to highlight kind of clutch gameplay in the E50M. I hope for every single one of the games I can show you today, I can give you a different situation. The first one's going to be clutch, the second one's going to be bullying medium tanks, the third one's just going to be a standard game, and the fourth one's going to be how you can play with your heavy tanks when you've lost a medium flank. So we're going to go all into that. Now for this game, I take an early spotting position here. I love this bush. You can spot medium tanks crossing left. You can spot people going towards the encounter cap. You can usually get an early shot in. Of course, you do not want to sit in this bush for too long, because if you do, the tank destroyers are going to say hello and nuke you. So it's best to just sit here, take an early shot, and then pull back right away. Now I know I'm probably unspotted at this point, and the E50M, he's running away here, which tells me a lot about what's happening in this game. The E50M, he would not run away here unless he had bad support. So that tells me right now that the enemy team has gone heavily to the right side of the map. And if you're looking at the mini-map, I'm going to realize in a moment that the enemy team has gone very heavily towards my spawn, and they only have a couple of tanks back here in their spawn. So I'm going to turn my tank around and go back towards our spawn. And the reason I'm doing this is I realize that our spawn is very exposed right now. We have a 268 here, who honestly isn't doing the best in terms of health, and we have an AMX 5120. These are the only tanks holding our spawn versus a KPF Z70, a Chieftain Mark 6, and a 4005. I need to go back here and start holding to help my team not lose so quickly here, but I'm not going to YOLO in. I'm going to play this pretty passively, and of course passively is always subjective to what tank I'm playing. So for me, this is semi-passive E50M gameplay. I'm going to hold here. I'm hull down. I'm not putting myself into a crossfire, and I can stop these 3 vehicles from really aggressing on my team, right? And this is just what you need to do sometimes in the E50M, because you have that decent armor, and you have that good gun in the DPM, and I know I have a 268 supporting me from behind, so they can't just YOLO onto me without losing a lot of HP for it. Our IS-7 is going to do what I just said not to do. He's going to push himself in, he's going to get himself stuck in a crossfire, and he's going to get himself deleted just like that. Yeah, okay, a little bit delayed. There we go. Okay, so now the IS-7 has died for pushing. I was thinking about pushing in here to kill the 4005, but then I made the calculation that, hold on, by doing that, I'd really be exposing myself to take at least 1,000 damage. If that Chieftain, the KPZ, and maybe even the 4005 hit me, I'd lose a lot of HP there. I trade with this Chieftain Mark 6. Good shot by him. But that's exactly what I meant when I said the E50M has decent armor, but it's not perfect. You saw that Chieftain just went straight through the front of my turret. Absolutely no problem. I was haul down. So when it comes to playing the E50M, you need to understand that with this vehicle, your armor profile is best when the enemy team isn't aiming carefully. So when you're pushing onto a tank and they're panicking, that's when the armor profile is best. If you're versus a tank that's comfortably hull down, they're going to have time to aim, and they're just going to go through your turret most of the time. Now, we are in a very bad situation here. We have 3 tanks behind me, 4005 in front of me. Right now, my priority is to kill this 4005 and just run away from the crossfire that I am in. If I sat there, I would die immediately. If I pushed in through the mid, I would get stuck in a crossfire. By pushing all the way around, I can assure a kill on this 4005, and of course, since he doesn't have the most amazing traverse, he dies there. And I'm going to, unfortunately, take a shot from the Sheridan, but we're going to pick up the kill. Now, it is a 1 versus 2 situation. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to sit here because I have no clue which way the enemy team is coming from. They could come from in front of me, to my right, or to my left. Right now, I want to see where this chieftain is. Before engaging to a flank, I need this information, and now that I know where the chieftain is, I'm just going to use my mobility and push left. As I expected, the E50M was holding there. We're just going to put a shot into him on the move. The reason I'm not stopping here is if I'd stopped there, the chieftain would have picked up the kill on me, and now it is a 1 versus 1. Me on 200 HP versus a very healthy Chieftain Mark 6. Now, in this situation, a lot of people would play passively, but here I figured the best opportunity for me to win this is to be the first one to initiate the damage. So what I'm doing here is I have a feeling the Chieftain Mark 6 is going to turn back, and he does, and I pick up a nice shot onto him early, and by playing aggressively here, I can ensure I can put early damage into him, and now the HP gap has closed a lot. So in these 1 versus 1 situations, you need to know when's the right time to play aggressive, because even though you're a one-shot, you can't just sit back and let them push on you. You can't just get yourself cornered in the map without dealing damage. And I'm going to side scrape here, and the armor is going to finally work for me. I bounced my first shot of this game. We're going to pop the adrenaline and outplay this Chieftain Mark 6. So there is where the armor is super helpful on this tank. We were able to side scrape very effectively there. It was a very clutch battle. We're going to do 4.6k damage, get 5 kills. So it was a 1 versus 4. I think very good demonstration of what the E50M is capable of and how to kind of play in those 1 versus 4 situations when it really comes to prioritizing targets and deciding which way to push. A pretty good game. A very clutch game, and I was definitely a little sweaty. So with that out of the way, let's jump into the second game. And as I stated earlier, this is going to be the game where I have fun bullying the enemy team, and it's going to be pretty much a breeze game from here. I'm just pushing left with my team, once again trying to isolate those medium tanks and kill them off at the start of the game. Like I said, you have good armor, but it's only good against medium vehicles that aren't aiming carefully. If you're facing heavy tanks, if they load up the heat and they have 370 heat pen, they're going to go right through your upper plate, your lower plate, your turret, even your sides if they're angled a little bit too much. So just understand that when you're playing this vehicle, you have armor, but don't rely on it. So the enemy 54 is making a very questionable play here. I think he gets himself stuck on a rock here. So rest in peace to the T-54. Now, the AMX 5120 gets spotted in the encounter cap, and of course, they have 3 tanks that were spotted on the right side, so I realize, hey, now is a really good time to utilize the E50M's ability to destroy medium tanks and push onto this 1-1B. We are going to give him a very unpleasant time here. Soon, we're going to ram him. We're going to deal over almost 400 damage there, put a shot into him, he loses 700 HP, and we're going to pick up the kill. And this is just what I love about the E50M so much, is how much you can give other medium tanks a miserable day. Now the AMX 50B shoots me there, so I'm just going to angle around, use this hut as cover, and push back to start engaging the 5120, who is isolated and trying to push on our T92 there. We're just going to push some shots in there. So back to what I was saying about why this tank is so good for engaging medium tanks is it's difficult to pen. Right? If you're face hugging someone, they're almost always going to have to shoot heat at you. You can ram them, you can push them around, you can really bully them. And you have this good DPM and mixture of armor profile where I just love engaging medium tanks and light tanks in this vehicle. I always aim to engage them first if I can help it, take them out of the game. And of course, that is exactly what happened here. Now, I'm just pushing in rather aggressively here, and a good lesson to note is if your team is dominating the enemy team, there's no need to play super passive, right? Just play aggressive, push in, do your thing. If you want to increase your average damage, you need to be very much of a damage farmer in these situations. Push in and farm that damage as fast as possible, as it's pretty obvious your team's going to win this situation. So exactly what I'm going to do here. I'm going to engage this FE215B183. And as I stated, the E50M doesn't have the best turret armor, but I'm also facing a 183, so his dispersion isn't great. I'm completely hauled down here. I'm just poking out for a split second to push shots into him. I'm not super concerned about him, and even if he did put a shot into me, I have almost full health. I'm not super worried about that, so we're just going to ignore him now. He's definitely dead. Gonna start farming this Waffenträger. We're gonna do 5,000 damage this game, right? It's gonna be a fun game. I'm gonna put one more shot on the waffle, pick up a kill, and like I said, this was a demonstration of one of those breeze games where it's just super easy to play the E50M. I think the only thing I can highlight about this replay is how to effectively farm damage by reading what the enemy team is doing and how you can really push up on the enemy medium tanks when you realize, hey, these guys are isolated, so just be aware of what's going on around you. In a similar manner, we're going to jump right on into the third game, and this is just going to be a pretty standard battle in the E50M. We're on Nube, and I am pushing towards the left-hand side of the map. I always like going left here. to the bridge, and then I don't like pushing up at the bridge at the very start. I actually like to sit here just for a moment to get an idea of where the enemy team is going, because a lot of times vehicles are slow to push up left, or the heavy tanks come from the right, and of course the T-92 gets spotted in the open, and I get to put a nice shot into him. Now, I'm not going to sit here any longer, because they have a few very healthy tank destroyers that I do not want to get hit by, and you know, I go there for the initial shot, and then I pull up into cover, and of course we're going to start aggressing on this E50M, who's pretty isolated. I know he doesn't have support from the T-92 as he was spotted left. We make a trade in the lower plate there, and honestly, that was just lazy gameplay by me. What I could have done here is gone for a side scrape, right? I definitely could have bounced him and not have taken a shot there. I'm just being a little bit lazy in this game, right? I'm going to take a shot from this waffle, but to be fair, I did not expect the waffle to push all the way up very aggressively like that. I thought he was going to sit down below a little further, and he's honestly, that was a big mistake on his part to push up so aggressively. He's going to get killed here. This poor E50M, he's trying to make a break for cover, but of course he doesn't have the best acceleration, so he's just going to get taken out like that. Okay, so this game is looking very good for my team. I'm already pretty confident we're going to win this game. Now I'm just going to engage this I-7, just use the armor profile, stay kind of haul down here. We're going to put a nice shot into this I-7's lower plate and then back up. What I'm not going to do here is be an idiot and poke out on the I-7 again, because he's probably going to penetrate me. What I'm just going to do here is just be patient. I know I have heavy tanks behind me. I saw the I-7 shoot. I'm going to put a shot into him, pull back a moment. I can see he's backing off the cover, so I'm just going to push forward and try to pick up a kill on this IS-7 here. Struggling a little bit of gun depression. He hits my upper plate there, and we ricochet the shot, pick up the kill. Okay, so this game is won. Now it is time for me to farm damage. I can see that we have two tanks on the right-hand side of the map that are quite healthy. I'm going to hook right here, and the reason I'm not just going to go straight forward is I know that IS-4 is coming this way. I do not want to get spotted by this IS-4 just yet. He's a harder tank for me to kill. What I would much rather do is push around and just kill this T-92. He's a much easier tank to kill, and maybe if I'm lucky, I'll even be able to get a ram onto him. So we catch these two vehicles, weren't even paying attention to the side. Now I make a little bit of a mistake there. I almost ran the IS-4, so I turned my tank a little bit too far to the right, so I missed my ram on the T-92. And of course, I bounce off the T-92 because that tank's armor is just really bizarre. And now we're just going to push up and farm this IS-4. Once again, pretty straightforward games in the E50M. I honestly can't say I made any spectacularly fantastic plays during these games, right? It was just straightforward E50M gameplay, engaging, using your armor, using your gun, and just kind of bullying vehicles when you get the opportunity. We're going to get the kill here. It was a pretty straightforward game. Now, for this last game, it's not going to be a consecutive battle, but I wanted to give this game because it kind of gives you an example of how you can play the E50M with your team if they want to go into a town setting versus heavy tanks, right? And so we're going to be on desert sands. And my initial plan for this game was to push right and deal with these medium tanks. I have a T-22, a very capable tier 10 medium tank that could support me. However, the T-22 made his intentions very clear that he wanted to go town. And of course, our heavy tanks made their intentions very clear that they wanted to go town. And the worst thing I could do here is just YOLO into a 2 versus 1 versus their medium tanks, right? So I'm going to stay with my team here. And as much as I dislike the idea of engaging heavy tanks, I kind of have to in this situation. I'm not going to push through the mid. If I push through the mid, I'd be putting myself in a position where I may get rushed by 2 medium tanks that just push through the encounter cap. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to fight with my heavy tanks. And this is definitely not how I usually play the E50M. However, in this situation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my heavy tanks as pretty much bait. Let them take the shots, and as soon as they take the shots, poke out and deal the damage. Now, the 183 bounces me there, and honestly, I thought he was reloading, so that was a bit of a foolish poke by me, and I got a little lucky that I realized, oh no, he's actually looking at me. Pulled back in time to manage to not take damage there. Once more, just sitting here, engaging these heavy tanks, but not being the one to get shot at if I can help it. So they have a mouse here and a 183 and a 57 heavy. There's nothing more I can really do here. I can see that they have medium tanks pushing into our spawn, and I can see our E100 is getting pushed on, and the IS-4 has just isolated himself from the team. So I turn around to engage this heavy tank here, because once again, I need to use my heavy tank's hit point pool and use them as the distraction to start focusing these vehicles on the right side. I shoot the 62-8 here because he's more of a threat to me, right? He has the DPM, he has the mobility. I'd rather take him out first, but obviously at this point, our E100 is going to die. And the 183 died. And I can see the 57 heavy is distracted, so I'm going to once again rearrange my attention to focus on the 57 heavy. I make a little bit of a mistake here. I did not need to pull back. I could have just pulled forward to the left and put a shot on the 57 heavy that way. Instead, I took a shot from the mouse. Not really a big issue in the end. We're going to put a shot into this mouse and we're pushing straight across. I want to get these vehicles in a crossfire. There's no reason for all 4 of us, including those heavy tanks, to be stuck there, sitting there and trying to engage frontally. So when you're in these town engagements, you always want to try and look for a different angle of approach to attack the enemy team. I can see this E3 is turned around, going the other way, in the 62A, and they're pushing onto our grill. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ignore these heavy tanks. I'm just going to go straight for this E3, put a shot onto him, ram him, and he gets picked up by the grill. That was a good decision there, to focus the lower health tanks that would be easier for me to kill, and to be honest, the tanks are much more of a threat to me. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to kill this T62A, and now this game is looking a lot better for my team as it's a 4 versus 3 engagement. I'm just going to hold here, and so we're going to go into the fun part of this replay in just a moment. So Fatness Wi-Fi is going to kick in very, very soon, and we're talking 45, 50 to 65% packet loss spikes for the entire rest of this game. And I think the rest of this battle is just going to be a demonstration of how capable this tank can be, even when you have about 10% control on your vehicle only. Right, so right now I have almost no control of what's going on me, and I'm taking shot from this IS-4, and at this point I'm thinking, I'm dead. I have no control over my tank. There's really nothing I can do here. I'm just going to try and face hug this IS-4 for now, and we bounced the 1-2-1. That one IS-4 puts another shot into me. I'm trying to pick up a kill here in the 1-2-1, but he dies, and I am still lagging here. It's very difficult for me to understand what I'm doing at this point. Unfortunately, this IS-4 is not being very careful of what he is doing in this game. He's bouncing heat shell after heat shell, and I think this really just demonstrates how strong this vehicle can be in the right situation. I'm not trying to side scrape here at all. I was trying to hug the wall, and I actually poke out way too far, but the IS-4 shoots heat into my track, so he doesn't get the pen there. Just a very funny ending to a fairly good game. I, of course, was frustrated about the lag, but, you know, in the end, it was still a good game. We bounced a lot of shots. It really demonstrated how troll the armor profile can be on this tank when you're facing an opponent that is not aiming their shots carefully. And just as a little bit of revenge, I'm going to pick up the kill on this IS-4 for making my day difficult. And of course, I'm mad about the lag, but it was a decent game in the end. We did over 5,000 damage, 5.5k to be exact. It's going to be an ace tanker. Good stuff. So now, let's recap the E50M. What am I trying to say when it comes to playing this vehicle? Well, let's to be honest, the tank has really good armor, but it's only good against the right opponents, right? So when you're facing medium tanks, the armor is great. When you're facing heavy tanks, it's eh. When you're facing TDs, don't even bother if you can help it. People will go straight through your turret. Premium rounds will go straight through your front of your upper plate. Doesn't even matter how much you're angling it. If you have like 370 pen, they're going to go through. When it comes to this tank, you have that mobility, you have that ramming potential and the DPM and the really good gun. You should really utilize it to find those isolated targets. So for instance, that last Desert Sands game, I really did not just sit around and farm those heavy tanks, right? I was always turning my attention to try and prioritize those easier to kill targets, seeing which vehicles were distracted by my team and pushing onto them, right? The E3, the 62A, all those vehicles I prioritized by paying attention to what was going on around me. I can really say that's important for the E50M. Is you have armor, use it, but don't rely on it fully. It's still better to use logical gameplay over just relying purely on your armor. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I'd like to thank everyone for watching it. I'd also like to thank all of the Patreons who have signed up and are supporting the channel. There's a link down in the description. Thank you so much to those guys. You guys are awesome. Please feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. I hope you all have a wonderful day.